Good morning, and I hope you're having a good day. It's another video with Pigsy, and I'm just going to go into, well, basically it's Newton's law of basically a force creates an equal and opposite reaction based on the external or internal force produced. And it's missing bits, so it's an or. It's an and or, but the or is better because the opposite reaction or an equal force reaction. And to explain that is that energy, basically it's using Tesla's thing, it transmutes between forms. And so like a sound wave may be equal to a force, but if it encounters another force, that, I mean, okay, if it was a complete opposite to it coming at it, they'd both cancel it out, the energy. But what would happen if it hits like a wall is that frequency would split, so you'd end up vibrating at certain levels of energy, and the energy would basically come out the other side, depending on the sound wave amplitude. And so what you've got there is a different relationship than just two forces hitting each other and one having an opposite equal effect. So with the law of attraction, you have basically, if you've got an equal force, you'll create something more stronger in unity. So I guess I'm talking about love it. But if somebody's actually not at that same frequency or connecting at that same level, it will create a repulsion. So their emotional state might be they reject you because they're not at the same frequency. So they can't harmonise with you emotionally. And so that's very important, because you may have sent out the basically with a wave, energy is put into it, and it projects out of it. And so the start of the wave would have a strong amplitude. And so in a relationship, your energy is come across, and it's a disruptive, and it's trying to amp up their frequencies. And what might happen is it kind of causes distortion. If you get it right, it boosts their energy levels, and hey ho, it's all good. And I mean, it doesn't just apply to an emotional relationship. It applies to different types of engagements between things you're attracted to or drawn to, things you want something to happen. Usually if there's less distortion or resistance, it's more likely to happen. So when people dream of the lottery, winning the lottery and all these other things, there's a mixture of things going on there. There's resistance from other people, and it becomes in a tug of war. So it's not really a good state. Where it might go into a higher realm of frequencies, if that impact has some kind of universal positive comes out of it, like by this action, it will set in motion other actions that went into cause and effect. So that's more the fate, things driven by fate. Like your nature, the nature of who you are will just reoccur. You resisting it possibly only lasts so long. Can you change your nature? Well, only if you're willing to become something else. That's the only possibility there. So it's just that kind of open way, really. So yeah, it's just in isolation, what Newton's saying is correct, but it's more in a kind of binary way it works. But when it comes to energy, frequencies and dimensions, it's not going to work in the same way, because there's a variable in there. That's what you call constant variables, and it's fixed. So I've just covered that in there. So a constant is something that remains. like your consciousness is probably fixed. I mean, your existence might be a constant. So even though your body is a variable, because it's going to change throughout your life and you'll die, you'll still go on in some form. So that's your constant. And where you get the fixed is that the nature of you brings you back to a point in time that you're connected to. So, you know, if you're a certain type of person, that doesn't have to change at all. It's a fixed point in your character. So it's like a point in the compass or something. So I don't know, Tess, yeah. I know, say that, man. Some big van coming out. So it's all very interesting. It was eye-opening when I played a game, a computer game in the past. It was a Bioshock, it sort of covered some of that. And then I looked it up and there is astrology, there's fixed constants and variables. And some things can't be changed. So the idea of time continuum is that it's possibly it's fixed. And if you change the fixing on it, then you change the universe, so you put it somewhere else. And you create a paradigm, because the structure of time exists built on each other. And therefore, if you create a new structure, the very fundamental function of it changes. You know, like existing in the same time as yourself. So if you could bend time round on itself and you saw yourself, then it may erase it, or it may remain as a constant. You may have generated a new universe out of this thing, this paradox. You might both exist in a different frame. Because it's like a program, so you're just loading up your consciousness with this other consciousness and all the variables connected to that. You know, that's why you kind of forget who you are when you first wake up, and then you kind of have to start switching in, and your nature will come into play, and certain fixed things, like you realise you're human when you wake up, and you don't even think about it really, it's just that kind of deep awareness. When you're sleeping, it's more of a variable, you can move around and you become something more. When you're higher consciousness, you're not sort of limited, and so therefore you might exist in more than one body and stuff like that, so it's not making cracky noises and stuff. So yeah, so it's all good. The laws of attraction and how things exist in different forms. So the constants, variables, and fixed are basically the computations in what comes on the outcome. Like water, you know, it's kind of a variable. But it come in as a fixed force. If you fired a water out, it would come at that particular energy and hit that other material form if you're shooting something with it. But then as it changes, as its frequency changes, it will adapt to that and become a kind of fixed, because it still went through the motions of striking something, but then it's become more variable in its nature, that it's wrapped around it like a rock in the stream or something, you know. I think if you understand the nature of things, you know, how can you influence it? And it's got to be really important influence. So how do you influence somebody psychologically? So you've got fixed variables and constants. Now a constant, most people in a relationship are not really constant. I mean, if they live with each other and stuff, they kind of have a bigger impact. The fixed point could be that you've seeded something into their mind. So, maybe in a long-term relationship, the variable may be the emotional level between it. And so, if you remove the variable, the fixed point becomes more a pinnacle. You focus on it. That's why no contact works in a particular way. Or the person realises they don't have to be fixed and becomes a complete variable and wants to go off and have a relationship with somebody else. So it's when you become attached, you become a fixed point. And it's what unifies you to that person or that individual. So it's really interesting stuff, really. it's what we can call this is universal dynamics. The universe has to function in a particular way. It has a nature. It has an inert nature in some way, because it wants to play a role with other things it encounters, and that's quite important. And where you become something different. So, for instance, like for me, I've transformed myself. So if I get myself thinner, and I grow emotionally, and I grow spiritually, I become. These are not just. It's all in the fixed part of it, I guess, or the constant, because I'm no longer the same, and so I'd have to reverse whatever's happened, which might not be possible because you don't lose yourself and become an earlier version unless you have a sort of condition of some kind. And so then it becomes a new program that people accept. They will test that boundary and think, are you the same person? But they start seeing that there's areas of you that have changed, and it's quite important. And whether you can formulate a relationship, and also where fear plays into it as well. It's really interesting. I was thinking about someone today, and I thought if I met a person, would I be scared to see him? I think initially would, because you wouldn't know what to do. You'd have to prepare your mind. But then it doesn't take long to say, these are the kind of focus points. Why do you feel fear meeting someone you haven't seen for a while? It's because I've changed, and I'm assuming that they've changed, and how they might react. Blimey, that was bloody close. Might not be so great. So, or it might be great, I think, but then I become the frequency, I become the fixed point, and they become the variable. And then what happens is they start harmonising because there's no threat. It's a bit like my voice now, it's nice and relaxed and peaceful, and it projects my energy through it, see? So if you're like, oh, okay, yeah, it's nice to meet you, and then you've got to read the body language, the person's uncomfortable. I wish you well and good. Oh, yeah, just say I've got to go now. So it's nice meeting you. I'm gonna leave it. No pressure, no attachment, no fixed part. You become the variable. But when you remove yourself from the equation, then the person tries to define you as the fixed point in their life. What did it mean by meeting you and stuff like that? Anyways, pick this one up, and I'll speak to you soon.